today's video, we're going over the top 5 meta assault rifle loadouts here in Warzone Season 4. The meta's got a great variety right now, so we have a lot of really solid builds to be able to show you guys. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm and subscribe for more, and let's hop into it. For the first gun here today, we're going to be taking a look at the M4. This is one of my personal favorites, super high mobility, but very high damage output guns that's got great recoil control. Let's kind of break it all down for you. So first thing in here is going to be that Harbinger D20. This is going to give us that sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. Overall, a great suppressor. The M4 does have a tendency to kind of kick rounds. This is really going to help us out. The tune on that here is going to be all the way max out for recoil smoothness and all the way max out there on the bottom for bullet velocity. This is one of those attachments where you can actually max it out, so you really don't got to feel too bad about doing that. Next up, we're going to go up in here to the high tower 20 barrel. So this is undoubtedly the most effective barrel in here you can possibly run for the M4. So bullet velocity increase, damage range, recoil control, and hipfire accuracy. I mean, this, like I said, out of all these barrels in here, this is definitely by far the most effective one. The tune on that here is going to be a plus 0.16 and a negative 0.25 there on the bottom. Now let's go on down here. We got the F-Tac Gripper 56. This is a tried and true underbarrel that a lot of people really like running, including myself. Aiming idle stability, hipfire accuracy, and of course recoil stabilization. It's just one of those ones you can pretty much slap on just about any assault rifle and be good to go. The tune on that here is going to be a plus 0.34 and also a plus 0.34 on the other side. Didn't really try to do that intentionally, but that's just kind of how it worked out. After that, we're going to go down here and throw in the 5.56 high velocity rounds. So of course, this is going to make your gun feel a little bit more hit scan, actually get your shots to register faster, as the general primary point for this thing is to kind of be very fast, very agile, and to have those shots hit because we are utilizing the iron sights. But the tune on this here is going to be a plus 0.56 to increase that damage range, and a plus 3.48 down there, a little bit more tuned for the bullet velocity. And lastly, we had that 45 round mag, but I am a 60 round mag kind of guy, so I could go for that 60, but keep in mind 45 or 60, you realistically can't go wrong. Maybe something for like solos, 45 if you're playing something like trios and quads. The 60 rounds probably going to do you a lot better. So that's been my full build there for the M4. This thing is incredible. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Next up here, we're going to be taking a look at the TAC 56. This is one of those assault rifles that has very low recoil, not a super high damage output, but you can really enjoy using it on Vondel, Ashika Island, maybe not as much on Mazra, but we'll get into the build here for it. So first thing is going to be the X10 Havoc. So this is going to give us that horizontal and vertical recoil control. This is more of a mobility based build for this gun because you don't really want to slow it down too much because, you know, I feel like you need a little bit more mobility with this thing, but we have that. The tune on this here is going to be a plus 0.57 and a plus 0.28 down there, a little bit more geared towards recoil control. Skipping the barrel, skipping the underbarrel, going straight in here for that 5.56 high velocity rounds. Once again, it's going to make your bullets actually register faster. This is a mobility build. You're trying to be in people's faces, kind of for that medium range, not super long range, because I don't believe the TAC 56 excels at super long range anymore. The tune on this here is going to be a plus 0.34 and a negative 2.61 there on the bottom. Now we're going to go on down here, throwing that 60 round mag. Like I said, I am a 60 round mag kind of guy, so I do believe the 60 is kind of like the go-to for this gun just entirely. It doesn't matter if I'm playing solos, I always feel like I need that 60 round mag, so I pretty much exclusively go for that. I don't even bother with the 40. After that, we're going to go back in here for the FSS combat grip. So this is going to give us that recoil control. It's going to do a great job here with the recoil control, so you don't really have to run an underbarrel like, for instance, the F-Tac Gripper 56. So I really enjoy running this. I tried it out a few different games, and I was like, all right, this actually hits, and it's very stable. The tune on that here is going to be a plus 0.42 and a plus 0.30 there on the bottom. And then lastly, we have the Cronin Mini Pro. So this is my blue dot, red dot. But I'll show you guys here something a little bit fun that's kind of cool. Is if I scroll on down here and I go for, is it the SE Lone Wolf optic? And I go for the skins. If I go all the way over here for the good old days, while this does show a red dot right here, I could switch this out. And, you know, if I put this on there, I will have a blue dot holographic, much like I do for that red dot sight, which is a blue dot. But here's the tuning for the Cronin Mini Pro. I just kind of want to showcase that to you guys because it is pretty cool, but it is part of the OG MW2 pack. But negative 1.74 and all the max out there for far distance. This is a pretty fun build here to be able to use in Warzone. Definitely meant for Ashika Island and Vondel. Next up, we're going to be taking a look here at undoubtedly probably the #1 AR in the entirety of Warzone. I know people kind of like to throw stuff up in the air, but this is statistically pretty much like the #1 AR that everyone's going to be using. So here's going to be a solid build for it. So first thing is going to be that Harbinger D20. You guys kind of know what this does. Sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. We're gonna actually go in here and tune this as follows, if I can get that going, at plus 1.08 and a plus 0.45 there on the bottom. Next up, we're gonna go in here for the 15.9 Lockman wrap barrel. This is once again kind of like the equivalent of the high tower barrel on the M4, but the version for the Lockman 5.56. So we have that. The tune on that here is gonna be a plus 0.40 and a plus 0.15. And we're going down here, F-Tac Ripper 56, a tried and true underbarrel. You guys kind of know what it does, so I'm not really going to explain it here. But the tune on that here is going to be a negative 0.39 and a plus 0.21. We got to go on down here for that 60 round mag, because of course, like I said, I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy. And then we do happen to have up in here the AIM Op V4, which is overall just a fantastic sight to be able to run between that, the SC recharge, which is something I've also ran here recently. You could actually realistically swap it out for the SC recharge if you wanted to, but keeping the AIM Op V4 is pretty simple to be able to do. And here's going to be my tune on that. It's negative 1.35 and negative 1.65. And for you guys that are wondering why I'm using a mouse, I normally play in a controller, but I have so much stick drift that my tunings just go crazy. So I just show you guys the top 5s of the mouse. I'm sure you guys all understand that stick drift kind of causes tuning to be a little bit tricky. But here's for our next gun. Our fourth gun up here today is going to be the Kastov 7.62. This is such a great assault rifle. It's one of my favorites to use in the game actually right now. But first thing here is going to be the TY-LR8 compensator. So this is going to help us out with that horizontal recoil control. We don't necessarily need the vertical recoil control. This gun likes to move around side to side quite a bit, so we don't have to worry about as much about that vertical. So we're just stabilizing it out, and that in theory and also in practice makes it very, very much a laser beam. So I really enjoy actually using that attachment. The tune on that's gonna be only maxed out for recoil stabilization and a plus 0.16 there on the bottom for that recoil control. Next up, we're going to go up in here and throw on the IG-K30 406mm barrel, increase in recoil control and bullet velocity. This is definitely the best barrel in here to be able to run on this gun. I know some people maybe try to run some of these other barrels over here, but to be honest with you guys, the IG-K30 is definitely going to be your best bet to be able to use this gun and make it actually really effective. I've had great success with it, so I don't recommend for you guys to use anything else. The tune on that's going to be a plus 0.23 and a negative 0.22. Now we're going to go on down here, throwing the 7.62 high velocity rounds. It's kind of been a more of a reoccurring theme this season to run like the high velocity rounds, something like that on a gun. This makes it more effective overall, but a negative 0.20 and a negative 6.10. And we're going to go on down here, I'm throwing the 40 round mag. So the base comes with 30. The only downside realistically to this gun is the magazine size. I wish it had a 45 or a 60 as the couple options, maybe at some point in the future, but it is left with a 40, and that's kind of reminds me a little bit of the CR56 AMAX, another harder hitting, slower firing assault rifle. This kind of fits in line with that. But lastly, the AIM Op V4 here once again. I'm not even gonna actually go in there and show you guys that. But you guys kind of get what I'm talking about. But a negative 2.13 there, and all they maxed out on the bottom for that far distance. I like kind of pushing the optic as far away from me as possible so I get as much of that picture around of what's going on. I love being able to do that. For snipers, I bring it a little bit closer, but for assault rifles, I push it out. Last but definitely not least here, we have the M13B. So this is one of those assault rifles I was not expecting to really ever make it into the meta slot, but it's definitely up there in the meta category. So here's gonna be my general overview of this gun. Let's get into it. So the first thing we have is the X10 ported 290. It's gonna help us out that vertical recoil control. Unlike the Kastov 7.62, this thing is not gonna move around as much horizontally as it will vertically. So when we kind of counteract that, it makes it much more of a laser beam. The Kastov does a lot more of that horizontal instead of the vertical. So you guys kind of have to balance that out, or we had to do that. The tuning on this thing here is gonna be a plus 0.70 and a plus 0.10. After that, we're gonna go up in here, throw on the 14 Bruin Echelon barrel, which is the equivalent to the wrap barrel, the high tower barrel. It's pretty much that barrel for this gun. It's like almost, if you remember back to Warzone 1, it's like the task force barrel for those guns. You guys get what I'm talking about. For you guys that are OG Warzone players, you'll remember that. But the tune on that here is gonna be a plus 0.40 and a plus 0.34. And then we're gonna go on down here, throwing those high velocity rounds. Once again, makes your shots register faster. This is just so easy to be able to use this, and it just makes your guns feel a lot more hit scan. The tune on that here is gonna be a plus 0.52 and a negative 2.90. And we're gonna go on down here, throw on that 60 round mag. We have the option for the 45 and the 60, but based on the fire rate and how I feel like I take people out, I normally speaking always go for the 60. The M4 is kind of really the only gun that I ever go for that 45. But last but definitely not least, we have up in here what I was talking to you guys about earlier, which is the SZ Lone Wolf optic. I really enjoy running the blue dot holographic because, of course, I happen to have the good old days variant from the OG MW2 pack I bought. It says, you know, the red dot, but it is a blue dot holographic, which is pretty cool. So if you go try that out, go into your skins if you happen to have that. But the tuning here on that is going to be a negative 0.77, and all they max out there on the bottom that far distance. That's been my top 5. You guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and of course, check out one of these other videos here on screen. And I'll see you all later.